that's really loud. So like we do for every session, I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. So I'd like to acknowledge the sacred land on which the University Health Network operates. For thousands of years, this has been the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and most recently the Mississauga of the Credit River. This territory was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Confederacy of the Ojibwe and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is still home to many people from across Turtle Island. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to work, learn, study, and conduct our research here. Okay, so like I mentioned, this is session 3 of the STAR program. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about networking. We have a bunch of different topics on teaching today, both about online networking, in-person networking, building a LinkedIn profile, all kinds of great information today. So as always, the session is being recorded. You'll receive a copy of the slides and a link to the recording into your inbox. It'll also have links to past sessions should you weren't able to attend the first few sessions or if you just started. You can go and watch those videos and simply complete what we're calling the missed sessions form. That'll give the opportunity to submit a couple of things that you've learned from that video, and then that'll count as if you're sitting in this room or sitting. There'll be a few opportunities to ask some questions throughout. We have the Slido poll set up, since there'll be some more group-related discussions. So if you are not comfortable raising your hand, you can submit the questions through Slido, but we encourage group discussion. It is networking, so it is talking to people. So I hope you don't feel shy, and it's a welcoming space. So please don't feel shy to raise your hand. It's totally welcomed. As you may have seen in your inboxes, the Research Day registration is now live. We'll go through all of the details in depth in 2 weeks from now at the July 10th learning session. So that's the session on how to create posters, and we'll also give you some tips on both how to create posters and really deep dive into those guidelines. But I just wanted to make this aware, just like it's on your horizon, so you make sure you complete the registration. Just a couple of notes. The in-person session is on a first come, first served basis for the slots. I think we'll have space for everyone to present a poster in person if they want to, but depending on the demand, that might not be the case. Yeah, 1 second.
So is the registration already open?
Registration is already open. Yeah, so you can, there's a QR code to it there now. It'll be also in the link in your email after. So you're welcome to do it now, but you can also do it later. There also is a virtual option if you are not able to attend on August 13th to Research Day, or perhaps there's all the in-person spots are taken. But again, I'm not thinking that that'll be the case, but I can't 100% guarantee it. Some important dates. The registration is required to be completed no later than July the 13th. So you have a few weeks to do that still. And then I'll send you an email no later than July 17th, which will include your poster number, what slot, because there's 2 different presentation slots, again, all outlined in the form. And then, or you'll get the guidelines on how to submit your poster through the online platform, which is called VoiceThreads. Again, all that information will be told to you later. I guess maybe other one note, I've got a couple of questions about this already. In the registration form, I am asking for the title of your presentation, but it's just a tentative title. This just basically is to give us an idea of what your poster will be on, just so that it'll help me organize where you'll be standing, just so that you don't have a collection of all cancer biology in one corner. It'll give you also the opportunity to network with peers from different areas. And also the people who are coming to look at your poster will have a nice diversity in the poster area. So if you need to change your title, change it. You don't have to tell me. It's just, again, for my own organization purposes. It's just a tentative title. You can change it if you want. You don't have to let us know. Okay, so now we'll jump into networking. This is one of 2 Slido polls, so keep your phones kind of handy. So we'd just love to kind of gauge everyone's feelings here about networking. You can also just yell it out if you would rather. But how do we feel about networking? Is it fun? Do you love it? Is it the best thing in the world? Is it the worst thing in the world? Terrifying? How do you feel? what do we all think about networking? Awkward. Yeah, I agree. It's not easy. I didn't find it easy. It's definitely something you learn and keep trying over and over again. So intimidating, scary, absolutely. I agree with you in here. It can be, do I see anybody thinking it's fun? Yeah, people love it, it's fun. I think it can be, once you kind of learn the right ways to do it, that work for your personality and for who you are. So hopefully I think we'll be able to tell you some things in different ways that you can network to make it fun for you. So I'm just gonna keep going. Okay, so let's starting off a little bit more of the, I guess, definition-y kind of part of networking. So what I've done here is pulled the definition of networking just out of the dictionary, which says that networking is interacting with different people to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. But what that really means is having conversations with people around you and building relationships with others. So when a lot of people think of networking, you just think it's like a one-way interaction where you're talking to somebody, but really it's a conversation, it's a two-way interaction. You're providing some information to them, they're providing some information to you. It's really that it's a building of a relationship rather than a transaction. So, and networking is important all different stages of your life and all different stages of your careers. No matter what you're doing, networking is beneficial. So I hope throughout this, I can convince you that it will be fun and will be beneficial. But come on in, there's lots of spaces. You don't have to, don't feel you have to stand in the corner. So now why should we network? So networking can really be a valuable stage at any part of your career, at no matter what your goals are. They can help you by providing advice and support. It can also help you explore different career options that maybe you've never heard of. You can also identify some new or hidden opportunities. A lot of times jobs and opportunities are not readily available on job boards or online. You have to find these opportunities through meeting people. So I think that if not anything else, that's maybe one of the most important aspects of networking. Your network can also, those different opportunities, find jobs, and as well as just continually expanding and growing your network for that constant opportunity finding, knowledge exchange. It's really, really, really great. As I suggested for finding jobs, there's been some studies that have shown that really 60 to 85% of jobs are found through networking. So that's continually reinforcing that importance as such a valuable tool for your career. Okay, so now again, we started off with that theoretical bit. Now let's move into the more practical part, which will bring us through the full hour today. So how do you actually network? And it really depends on the person. It's different from person to person, depending on how outgoing you are, how shy you are, and the ways that you like to meet new people. So the important thing really to know is that anyone can build an amazing network, regardless of your skills and who you know. So you are also networking, even if you don't realize that you are, because you are connected with people on a daily basis. You talk to your friends often, you talk to your family a lot, you see classmates all the time, you see people in your lab. That is inherently networking, whether you really know it or not. Everyone has pieces of information that are valuable to you. So you're building those relationships in whatever context is important. So that is networking. More on an organic level, and there's some other ways where you'll start meeting people who you don't know, so which is maybe less organic, but it's that more maybe that you may think of. Time is a really powerful tool when it comes to networking. Take the time to build those relationships and make those meaningful connections. That's really when you get the most benefit out of it. And always be yourself. People want to know you. People like to talk to the person rather than it being kind of like a sales pitch or a transaction. Get to know the person, going back to the time. Take that time, exchange that information. So be yourself and be genuine in those interactions. So there's 4 different ways of networking that we're going to talk to you about today. So we'll talk about networking online. So primarily focused on building a LinkedIn profile. and this online networking tends to be a little bit of the more accessible option. We'll also include some discussions on how to have online informational interviews. So people you're connecting with online that you want to learn more about them or their job. Then we'll move on to networking and learning how to master networking at in-person events, which, you know, kind of in the post-COVID age, those are becoming more and more popular now, and more groups are doing them, and really how to make the most out of those. And then as well as how to introduce yourself to make a great impression. So we'll have a little activity on elevator pitches. So have a small opportunity to network with the people around you. And then as well, how to maintain those connections with, which often tend to be maybe one of the more harder steps is to keep those connections going. So I just want to gauge the room before I start going through the slides, just out of a show of hands, who has a LinkedIn profile? Okay, amazing. See a couple, I didn't see a couple, I didn't see all hands go up. So hopefully some of the information will be maybe a little bit obvious for a lot of you, but hopefully too, what we're sharing with you today can also help you improve your profiles and make it as best as it can be. And for those of you who don't have a LinkedIn profile, hopefully we can convince you to make one. So because there's so many hands up in the room, you obviously all know what LinkedIn is, but it's definitely one of the most powerful social media tools for networking and career exploration. It's a great way to, you know, meet new people and build those connections and grow your network, as well as like learn about different career paths. When I was on a job hunt after graduate studies, I came across the job that I'm currently in through a post on LinkedIn. I didn't apply directly through LinkedIn. Some jobs you can do that, but I didn't do that. But I became aware of this position through LinkedIn, through searching for like educational programming, educational coordinators, and those types of things, and how I landed here today. So LinkedIn was successful in my own career journey, so I hope you use it for yours as well. So we'll just talk a few tips about getting your LinkedIn profile started. And then again, if you have one, hopefully we can boost it up. But you may have seen too, scrolling through LinkedIn, that it's often trying to prompt you for the paid versions. I don't think you need it. Everything we're going to tell you today is all related to the free version. I don't think you need it. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I'll leave that decision up to you, but anything that we talked about today was all related to the free version of the account. So just starting off with the basics of a LinkedIn profile, of course, you're going to put your name. So that's what we have here, just a screen grab from my own LinkedIn profile. Some people like to put some post-nominal letters, so things like PhD, MSc, you know, some people have some professional certifications like a project management professional, which is a PMP. So you might often see that after their last name. I didn't put any of my degree letters or certification after my name. It's all totally personal preference. It's really whatever you want to make prominent within your name. There are also some features on LinkedIn where you can include the pronunciation of your name. I think that's really great. It's a really great tool to have when you're setting up some of those informational interviews and making those connections with people, so you know how their name is pronounced, so you know how to address them properly when you meet them. Same thing with pronouns. That's also another great opportunity to include that there if you'd like to include that, as well as you'll know how to address somebody when you're having those connections. Next up is your profile picture, which translating a little bit blurry. Trust me, it's not that blurry on LinkedIn. It maybe seems obvious, but you really want to make sure it's a recent photo of yourself. You know, when you're meeting the person, it's not surprising of who they're meeting. We don't recommend cropping out using like selfies or you're cropping yourself out of group photos. It's a professional platform. There's other platforms where you can do more of the kind of, you post the selfies and you post the group photos. So this is keeping this one a single image of it. You want to make sure that you're really prominent in that circle so that people can really see who you are. Some people say you can have at least 60% of your face kind of taking up that circle. And this one I've seen some differing opinions on. I don't have as a strong of an opinion on it, but about making sure that you have a really simple or white background. I think as long as you're very prominent in the image, you can have something with a background. I had this taken at a headshot event, so that's why it's a pretty simple background, but there's also a lot of great spaces around UHN and really nice backdrops, leaves and buildings and all those types of things. So there's a lot of great places where you can take photos should you want. So as long as I think you're present and prominent within those images and the background isn't distracting, I'll leave that one up to you. But if you want to have a simple background or change that, there are things on PowerPoint and Canva that allow you to crop out a background or change the background to different colors. So there are tools to do that should you want to change that. On your profile, you also have options to put a banner behind your image. You can incorporate up to 5 banners on your profile. And this is a really great way to showcase some of your interests and your background as well. So a lot of times I've seen people put information related to their research. So when I was in grad studies, I took that image on the top left, excuse me. It's just a scanning electron micrograph of some amoeba that I was working on. I think it's actually not a great one. Like the image itself, it wasn't a really, properly fixed and stained image, but I think it's kind of cool looking and it showcases some of the research that I had done. So that's something you can put related to your research. It's also another image here. This is not my image, but of themselves that are stained, but also through like Canva and other image generation softwares, you can also kind of create some fun backgrounds and templates to showcase some skills or images and graphics related to the work that you're doing or perhaps that you want to do in the future. So I encourage you to also create a really fun background. You can also be creative. So that's also some fun aspects there. The next step in your profile is your headline. And this is the title that appears just below your name. So when people are searching for you, of course, your name is the first thing that they'll see. And then your photo as well. And then your headline is one of those really prominent things that they'll see when they're looking you up. So it's a really good idea to make this section really informative because you're wanting to try and grab that attention of could be a future employer, could be a recruiter, or really whoever is interested in learning more about what you have to offer professionally, the skills and your interests. So just a couple of tips here as again, you're grabbing that attention for a future employer, but something that to consider is that I know I've seen a lot of people just put undergraduate student in their headline. People aren't necessarily looking for undergraduate student. The undergraduate students have a lot of different skills and expertise to offer. So this is where you want to highlight that type of thing. I'll give you some examples of what you can put on the next slide. But as you can see in mine, I have a few different things that I've put. I put my job title. I also put a general statement of what I do day to day, which is research and professional development trainings. That's the big part of my job. And as well, I wanted to highlight my education, which is an MSc in microbiology. I wanted it still to be prominent, but I didn't feel I needed to put it directly in. So you can put some judgment in terms of how much emphasis you want to put on different things. But in terms of that headline, again, being descriptive is really important. So for example, people in the room here, you're obviously all summer students. So things you can put are like research assistant at UHN is a really great thing to put in your headline. You can also include information about your major at your undergraduate major. So if you are a microbiology major or a neuroscience major, that's something to highlight because that's showcasing some of your expertise that you have and that you're building. If you have any leadership positions that you're in, if you're like the president or a treasurer or hold some sort of position on a student association, that's leadership skills. That's a perfect thing to put in your headline. As well as if you're part of any volunteer groups or organizations and skills that you're learning there, another great thing to put in your headline. Something I think is also really important, and I've seen some people starting to put this into their headlines now, is incorporating your marketable skills and accomplishments there. One thing you can put is that if you're an expert or have expertise in coding and R, Python, SQL, or any other languages, that's a really sought after skill. That's something you should definitely put in a headline. If you've received an award, you can put that you're recipient of that award in your headline. It's more than just a title or a short statement that you can put in your headline. Have fun with it. Okay, so we're kind of scrolling down the page now. So next you have your about section. So this is really kind of like the resume, I guess, of LinkedIn, where you can really start showcasing the different experiences that you've had and the skills that you're in the skills and the things that you've done within those roles. So it's kind of like that objective section of your resume. So this is often maybe one of the first sections they see after you've piqued their interest through the headline, and now they want to learn more about you. So this is the next thing that you'll see. So you want to use it to tell the reader about yourself. So don't just list facts in this one, really sell yourself. So some things that you can include are a few sentences really about who you are. What are your values? What are your motivation? Kind of like your elevator pitch, which Alessandra will take you through in the next little bit, but kind of like your elevator pitch. You also want to include things on like your key accomplishments that really highlight your skills. If you adding metrics and numbers that really highlights the impact of your work, great place to put that there. Coordinated an event for 250 incoming first year science students at the University of Toronto or something like that. That really shows that the impact of the things that you're doing. Also, you can highlight different skills that you have. A great place to do that. So now your experience section, this is really, I guess, the resume. You're putting in your current and past experiences and really focusing on what's relevant within each of the jobs. Within that experience section, you'll be linking to all of the different organizations that you've been part of. There's no limit here, so you can really kind of go and put all the things that you've done that really highlight who you are. Just as you would in your resume, making sure you're including like the start and end dates of the different things that you've been working on and detailed descriptions of what you've done and the roles that you've had. You can also be including, again, like I said, there's no limit in terms of space. So making sure you're including all of those different volunteer opportunities, those different extracurricular activities, really highlighting all of those different marketable skills that you're building. Because just because you're not necessarily been working in a lab for the last 10 years, but volunteering on a sports team and volunteering on a student committee, it's all of these different leadership activities and things that you've learned that really make you a well-rounded person. So these are all very, very marketable skills that you want to make sure that you're highlighting. Both here, and I know we're not talking about resumes today, but something you also really want to highlight on a resume. Okay, so in this experience section, you'll have that opportunity underneath each of those job titles to put some information about what you've done. And these, you want to be detailed and you want to include those metrics, just maybe even in a little bit more depth than you would in your about section. So for example, you can put, I collected and analyzed data that contributed to a research publication in X journal. It's showing that the outcomes of the work that you've done. You've communicated your research through presentations at these meetings and at different research days. So you can also include that. You presented your summer research work at the STAR Research Day later on in the year. It's a great line item that you can put. Or you've developed and executed a social event for X number of summer students. So there's all the kinds of different ways that you can highlight your experiences and really making those stand out and attractive to potential employers and recruiters and people that are looking at your profile. And really highlighting some of those, those transferable skills as you're incorporating those. There's something a resource that we won't have time to kind of go through it in detail today, but I really encourage you to go through it on your own time. It's something called CAR statements, or challenge, action, result statements. It's a really great way of synthesizing your information and synthesizing your descriptions into a really, sorry, I lost the word I was going to use, a really impactful way. So a way of just guiding you in your writing when you're putting those statements together. Great for LinkedIn, but also, again, really applicable to a lot of job documents. I'll send this link out to everyone in the email, so no need to quickly capture it. You're welcome to now if you want to. Okay. At this point, you've created your LinkedIn profile and you're ready to start building your network. So as I mentioned before, you can start building your network you can start building your network gradually. Really organically sending out invitations and connections to people really in your inner circle. It's really kind of a low stress way to kind of getting started. So you can start sending them to friends. You can start sending them to family. You can send them to us if you want to. We're hopefully not scary people. So you can even a way to test out some of the information that we're sharing with you today. You're welcome to send us requests if you'd like. After you've started with your inner circle, you can kind of slowly start kind of building it out to kind of, again, make that well-rounded network. So you can start with, next you can go on to your classmates, current or past coworkers, people you've met in the past generally, or people you're meeting in your current job. in your job, oftentimes at jobs, there's people, you're meeting new people at different meetings. So after the meeting, you connect with those people and really starting to increasing in that network. Alumni in your program that you've met through different events, as well as mutual connections. Then, that's kind of you're building your foundation of your network, and then you can start reaching out to people to learn more about jobs and careers and opportunities and that type of thing. Because I think it's always a nice way to start small, kind of a low stress, low pressure opportunity as you kind of work your way into networking through LinkedIn. So just an idea in terms of how you can connect with new people on LinkedIn that you don't actually know. So an easy way to start by connecting with people you don't know is asking your own connections for introductions. So first some information here. People that you are connected to on LinkedIn are considered your first connection. So I'm connected with Alessandra on LinkedIn, so she's my first connection. But people that you aren't connected with, but that you share a mutual connection with, are called your second connections. So for example, I wanted to connect with Kevin Smith, who is the president of UHN. I'm not connected with him, so I don't have a first connection with Kevin, but I do have a second connection because I'm connected with Andrew and Helen, who are my first connections, and then they're connected with Kevin. That makes sense. So Kevin is my second connection. So if I wanted to, connect with Kevin, I could also reach out and press connect and send a note and do that maybe the standard way. But I could also reach out to one of my connections, my first connections who are connected with the person I want to connect with, and ask them for an introduction. So there's different ways again to make those connections through LinkedIn. So really, you can really use your network to meet anyone you want to. It's really cool that way. Beyond just meeting people and connecting with people generally, as I've said many times, LinkedIn is the place where jobs and careers and opportunities can be found. And this is the place where you connect with them. So this blank slide is my reminder to just pop up a little video that was supposed to be embedded, but just really decided not to work. But we have a quick little tutorial video here that I'll just walk you through, but it's essentially just like, if you're interested in the title of clinical research coordinator. So what we've done here is, so if you want to learn about being a clinical research coordinator, you look that person up, and then you can, or look that title up, or that thing up. Then you can look for people. When you click on people, this will be all the people that have listed their job title as clinical research coordinator. Going really fast. So you can look through other people, look at the organizations that they're at, and decide who is someone I want to talk to at an organization that I'd like to be a clinical research coordinator at, or learn more about what that job is like. Then you could identify that person and go to if you're particularly interested in learning about what Evan, as a clinical research coordinator here at UHN is doing, you can click on their profile and go through all the different sections that we've talked about to learn more about who they are and their path in terms of how they got there. For example, Kevin was a research student here at the beginning and worked his way up research. You can also look for jobs. So under the drop-down menu on the top left, or you can look for people, you can click jobs and look at all of the open postings for jobs of data-related titles. And then if you're interested in that and you're qualified for those jobs, you can apply for them. There's also different groups on LinkedIn that are related to a million different topics. So there's some groups relating to working as clinical research coordinators or any clinical related topics. So great place to meet people there. Connect with different members of people that you may not inherently know or how to find. And as well, there's a place for different events. If you're interested in looking at events related to clinical research coordinators, and other people look for events and opportunities to meet even more people. So there's just wanting to emphasize there's tons of ways on LinkedIn that you can go to find and meet these people. Now, you just move that out of the way. Okay, so as I wrap up, before I pass it over to Alessandra, I just really wanted to note that when you are wanting to connect with people, sending connection requests and sharing notes is really a great ticket and a great avenue to ensure you're starting those connections, starting those relationships off on a really great foot. So when you are considering adding somebody, so in this example, I've clicked connect. I didn't directly reach out to one of my mutual connections to connect with Kevin. I've clicked the connect button here. So you're kind of given a couple different avenues or options to go with. You can just directly send the invitation with no note, which you can do. I always encourage you to send a note where possible, or you can click the add a note button. Of course, adding a note really dramatically increases your likelihood of the person accepting that invitation and likelihood of them wanting to talk to you because you're showing some interest and showing some effort in that connection. Within free accounts, you are limited to the number of connections that you can send with a note every month. It's 5. And you're also limited to the number of characters that you can send. It's a really, really, really short, 200 characters. So it's sometimes you have to get creative. You can, you write your message. You can also maybe use, Copilot, ChatGPT to help synthesize it. But always proofread when you're using those different softwares. But 200 characters is what you're limited to per month, or per message with 5 per month. So when you're writing these messages, you always want to make sure you're being brief and you're being professional. But you also want to be direct. You only have 200 characters. You really have no choice but to be direct. Where possible, trying to indicate information like if the event that you met them at, if there's someone that's typically connected with you, or basically, or why you're reaching out, depending on the context of the message that you're sending. And then providing an ask. Do you want to talk to them? What is the information that you want to get from them? So I've just included a really short example here of what a note could be if someone was perhaps reaching out to me, if they really loved my job and they really wanted to know about what I did. So, hi Jordan, I'm a U of T undergrad interested in a career in student support. I admire your work with the ORT and would appreciate the opportunity to learn about your role and career path in a brief call. Thanks. So again, it's to the point that they're expressing interest in the job that I have and they want to learn about how I got here. And the ask is they want to have a call. So it's brief, it's short, it's direct, and there's an ask. So all the things that I think should be included in one of these notes. That's it from me, and I'll pass it over to Alpha.
That was awesome. I actually remembered one really helpful tip for LinkedIn that I'm just gonna say out loud. So when you go to somebody's profile, it notifies them that you looked at their profile. And so I always felt as a student, I was like creeping on people when I had to keep looking at their profile, especially before having an informational interview, which I'm going to talk about next. So what you can actually do is save a copy of their profile as a PDF, and it doesn't tell them that you saved it. So when you go to their profile, there's 3 dots like near where their picture is or their name is. Save their profile as a PDF. Sometimes you'll go to a career event and maybe you won't be able to meet that person for an informational interview for a couple of months. And so rather than going back and like reviewing their profile like a few times that week before to kind of do your due diligence, you have a copy of the PDF on your computer. So yeah, it kind of, I don't know, makes me shy about doing my research. So we'll talk about all of that. Okay, so the informational interview, this is a really great tool that you can use to learn more about somebody's career or a workplace. And so usually these are one-time career chats. They last about 15 to 30 minutes, but sometimes if the conversation's really good, it could last up to like an hour and a bit. So just kind of make sure you block off the appropriate time in your schedule. You can totally do these virtually, especially if you have somebody that you want to talk to that's international. Virtual is really great for these, but if you can, I would try to do these in person. It helps to just put a face to the name. And we'll talk about tips for scheduling these in the next slide. And it's important to remember that you're not really asking for a job in these interviews. It's more about asking for advice and information. It can get really awkward if you just ask them for a job and you don't really even know them. But by doing informational interviews, you're making that first connection so that you can potentially go back if you see a job posting come up. Now they know you, they might be able to refer you in the future. So they're super handy. And just remember, people were once in your shoes. They went to undergrad as well. And so don't be afraid to reach out. People are more than happy to talk about themselves, especially when there's no like job on the line for it. People will tell you all about their journeys. So again, just kind of reiterating, you don't have to be afraid to reach out for an informational interview. Okay, so some tips. So just be prepared. You want to do your research. Make sure you read through that person's LinkedIn. You can Google them, try to find out information about their company. The more you know, the more prepared you'll sound, and that will be impressive. And again, even though you're not asking for a job at this stage, it may lead to one in the future, so you want to make a good impression. You also want to be respectful of this person's time. They might be really busy. As I mentioned, sometimes you can ask for an informational interview. It won't happen for a few months just because that person is really important. So just make sure you show up on time. Make sure you don't have to run off anywhere. You also want to be pretty courteous. Try not to interrupt them while they're talking. And you want to actively listen so that you can ask more questions, and that will help to facilitate your conversation. So in terms of examples of the kinds of questions that you can ask about their path to the position, what their day-to-day looks like, what success would look like in their roles, any training or experiences required to get to that position, or what maybe they wish they did to prepare for that role. General advice. And if you know that they're connected to somebody that you really want to connect with, don't be afraid to ask them. You can ask if they can connect you to that person in the future. Okay, so now let's move on to networking at in-person events. So ORT, for example, we facilitate a lot of in-person networking events where we'll get professionals to come in for a few hours at a time and either do panel discussions for them to talk about their careers, or we'll set up tables for networking. And so these events are in person, and it's great because it's kind of removing a barrier to go seek out these people on your own. So really take advantage of these opportunities as done throughout the school year. It can be a great time to meet people that you may not run into on a regular day. And they also know that they're there to network, so they'll be really receptive to any questions that you may have. And again, you want to do your research, so be prepared. Know who's going to be there. Usually the networking organizers will post a list of people's bios. Usually they'll have photos, but if they don't have photos, I recommend investigating and trying to find their pictures. So in case you're going to a large event where there's a lot of people there, you know who to look for and how to find them so that you can maximize your time. You also want to make a goal or plan for yourself. So if you're shy, for example, maybe you want to say, I'm going to go to this event and I'm going to just talk to 2 people without any particular person in mind. And that way you'll feel accomplished after you attend the event. You can also have specific people that you want to talk to and make sure that you're able to chat with them before the end of the event. And finally, you want to arrive early. You can try to scope out the room. Sometimes before the room fills up, you'll be able to sit close to the speaker there. Maybe you'll be able to have a conversation with them before anybody else gets in, and that's kind of nice one-on-one time with them. Okay, so as I mentioned, these events can be pretty well attended, and it can be a bit nerve-wracking to know where to start. And so what we have here is just an example of what a room for a networking event in person may look like. So we have our snack table on this side, and then the door on the bottom, if you're facing the screen, bottom right side. And then we have different groups of people here. So again, if you're shy, I would recommend maybe standing by the snack table. Everybody likes snacks. It's a good way to talk to people as they're kind of like heading in to grab like, I don't know, a drink or something to eat. And that could be a good way to approach somebody. You also want to be conscious of kind of, I guess, the social interactions that are happening. So if you see some groups of people that are a bit closed off, you would never want to just interrupt and break up that conversation. It might not leave a good impression. So you always want to try to be smooth when you're entering a group. So I would recommend maybe joining a group that seems like they have an open position for you to join in, or maybe somebody who's standing on their own. That would be a good opportunity to talk to someone. Even if you don't get to meet the person that you really wanted to meet at the beginning of the event, don't worry. Sometimes that person that you end up talking to might actually kind of fit the requirements that you were looking for. They may even actually know that person. So just kind of have an open mind. It's good practice to also talk to a few people before that maybe you didn't have in mind to talk to before you get to the person you really wanted to talk to as practice. And also I would avoid standing by the door. It's really high traffic, it's kind of loud, hard to hear people. And if you want to actively listen, that would make it challenging. And actually, okay, I'm gonna mention one other thing. I think there's kind of this fallacy that you have to be really aggressive to get what you want in your career. I think that the opposite is actually true. So when you're at these networking events, again, you don't want to go in like interrupting conversations, trying to make yourself stand out. It can come off as a bit obnoxious. So, you know, most people when they're hiring are just looking for really pleasant coworkers. And so you want to make a good impression and kind of be aware of your social surroundings. Okay. So when you're meeting people in professional settings, they'll often ask you to tell them about yourself. So they're not really asking for you to tell them about your hobbies or your special interests at this point. They're asking you about who you are as a professional. And so one way to answer this question is to have an elevator pitch. And you can actually have multiple depending on your audience, whether you're talking to a colleague that's kind of at the same level or somebody perhaps more senior. And so the gist of it is that you want it to be really short. So imagine you happen to get into the elevator with somebody super important one day. They're only going 5 floors. Maybe you only have 30 seconds with them. You want to make a great impression, tell them something really short and sweet that they can remember you by, so that maybe you can follow up. So we'll go through kind of a formula for designing elevator pitches, and then I'll go through an example. For what I might say if I ran into Dr. Brad Waters, who's the Executive Vice President of Research at UHN. Okay, so again, there's no right or wrong way to do an elevator pitch. Watching YouTube videos is probably the best way to help you tailor one. Copilot, ChatGPT can also give you some great tips and help you refine what you're going to say. But first, you would want to start with a very simple introduction, your name, who you are. Then you would want to mention your experience or what value you bring, what would make you unique. And then finally, you'd want to make a statement about your goals. So maybe what you want to share with them, a question. You can ask, is it okay to connect with you on LinkedIn? Something like that. So my example would be to introduce myself at first. So hi, my name is Alessandra. I'm a summer student in Dr. Linda Penn's lab at Princess Margaret. My project is about understanding how oncogenes contribute to cancer progression. And I wanted to let you know that I'm really enjoying my time at UHN, and I hope to have a career as a research scientist here in the future. So just something really short and sweet. And again, you can tailor this to different audience. So let's do a really quick activity. Because these are supposed to be very short, I want you to turn to your neighbor, and we'll just take like 2 minutes to do this and try to give an elevator pitch. So the formula is here. So introduce yourself, say your experience or your value, and mention one of your goals. So, okay, we'll have 2 minutes. That's awesome. Would anybody want to share their elevator pitch? Anyone? If not, that's okay, but there's somebody excited to share their elevator pitch. Okay, 3, 2, 1, we'll move on. Don't. And we'll have some time for questions at the end, if there's anything that comes up. Okay, awesome. So, and again, I just want to reiterate, practice will help a lot. The first time you say it, it's going to be really awkward and kind of feel like cringy, but the more you practice it and the more you tailor it, it'll get a lot easier, I promise. Okay, so now you've asked for the informational interview. How do you kind of keep that conversation going? So we just want to make sure that you know that it's good to ask open-ended questions. So just kind of be conscious of that. If you ask a question that kind of would just give like a one answer response, it doesn't help to facilitate that conversation. So rather than asking, what do you do? It's just kind of asking for an answer that says, I'm a scientist, I'm a doctor. You want to ask, what was your journey to your current position? Or what does a typical day look like? These kinds of questions will help them start talking, and then there will be more opportunities for you to kind of grasp on to certain things that you want to ask them about again. You can also ask them like what their favorite part of the job is, any challenges that come along with their job, and what kind of projects they're working on now. Another thing that helps to ask great questions is, again, doing your research. You can showcase your knowledge of them or their company by asking questions. So you can say something like, I saw that you previously worked at this company or you had this position. How did you make the transition to that role, or how did you make the transition from there to your current role? Or if you've seen on LinkedIn that their company released a new product, or I don't know, if they licensed some piece of intellectual property, you can ask them about it, and it is really impressive because it shows that you've done your research. And again, you want to have a genuine conversation, keep it curious, be engaged. So actively listen. Again, it's really impressive when you're asking follow-up questions to the things that that person has said. And also just be aware of your nonverbal communication. Only 10% of human communication is verbal. So you want to be aware of, your body language, try to make eye contact, rather than sitting talking to them with your arms crossed. Try to be relaxed, try to smile, and that can also help to facilitate a connection. And then now it's time to close the deal. So how do you wrap up the conversation? You want to be really grateful for their time, so thank them. And then at this point, you would ask if you can stay connected, either through email or LinkedIn, and we'll talk about that again in the next slide. And then you want to gracefully exit the conversation. So most of the time in informational interviews or during networking events, people are super receptive to like helping you out. But if you find maybe, I don't know, somebody's in a rush, don't try to like hold them back, let them go. You want to kind of leave a good impression in that way. And then once you're done, this is really important, right after, write down the notes from the session. So in a few months, let's say if you finally schedule an informational interview or you meet them again at another event, you can like flip through your phone and remind yourself what you talked about. Another thing that you can do during the wrap up of the conversation is use the QR code in your LinkedIn mobile app to really quickly add somebody as a contact. Sometimes it can get kind of clunky to like try to find someone's name, and there's like profile restrictions depending on their privacy settings. So there's a QR code. If you go to your profile in the search bar, you can see my code, and then you can just scan it, and that helps to like move things along. And then in terms of follow-up, you want to do this really soon after you've met so that you're fresh in their mind, usually a day or 2 days after that you've met. You can thank them for their advice. You should also reference something specific that they mentioned in the informational interview or during the networking session. If they mentioned, I don't know, that they were going to watch a soccer game afterwards, you can just mention, oh, I hope you had a great time at the game, just to show that you were listening to them. And you can also ask for more information or follow-up conversation. And so over time, you're going to make a lot of connections. So how do you maintain them? Try to stay in touch. Some people have different schedules, like sometimes it can be fixed. Sometimes once you have a lot of people in your network, it can be hard to do that. So you can, I think the best way to do this is through LinkedIn. So you can follow people's updates. You can see their content. You can engage with their content, and that kind of will help bump you up in their feed. You can wish them happy holidays. You can ask them for any advice or about their career updates. And if there's anything that you can offer to them that's of value. So for example, let's say you see a grant that might be relevant to them or a news article that might be relevant, totally send it to them. It could be really helpful. And it leaves, a very proactive impression. And so in the future, if that does lead to any job opportunities, they'll remember that. And then the last thing you can do is be active on LinkedIn yourself. So you can post about highlights, events, opportunities that you're involved in. The Star Poster Day is a really great thing that you can post about on LinkedIn. Updates for any awards you've won, articles that you've read or enjoyed. That again will help you up in your network speed. And so with that, we'll ask if there are any questions.
Did you went through Slido?
It's just if you don't want to ask it out loud, you can. There's no pressure using that. You can also. We just have a few minutes left, so maybe like we have time for a couple questions now. We'll be sticking around after, so if you want to have some more conversations, you're welcome to come up to us after about anything we talked about. If you have questions about Research Day, I know traditionally we tend to get lots of questions, so if there's anything that needs clarification, please come ask us. But
Oh yeah, we can do that first.
so this is what we would really love for you all here to do. If you wouldn't mind completing this quick poll, like we've done in the other two sessions, just so that we can gauge your feelings on it. And questions, we're happy to take those. If there's no questions, and you've completed so we'll wrap up our session. We have another session on July the 10th. That is where we will talk about Research Day. Do a key breakdown of small titles,
Sections about those.
posters.
If
You can ask the research related posters, examples of non-research related posters, because you don't have to present a research like a primary research poster. Size of the poster, the templates, we'll have grad students and postdocs coming in to give examples of posters that they made. You can ask questions directly with them. Also, so again, please do register for Research Day. Be a reminder, and if you need leave the poll if you don't have any questions, you're free.
No, they have to like sit your thing with it.
Your CD is just like.
Yeah.
That's so great. That makes.
Only people think about it.